that'd be fun to get back into high school coaching. But I was like, I'm only a volunteer. There's going to be some times where I just can't be there, or I don't want to be there because I'm going to go play golf that day. Or I get home and tell my wife, and she's like, you're going to be there all the time, right? That's the only way that you know how to do it. Yeah. I'm there about 4 or 5 hours a day.
Welcome to the coachemup podcast. I'm Tim Riley. Zach Zillner is not with me today, but that is okay because Chad Wesley Smith is in the building. Chad, what's up, dude?
Pleasure to be here. Just a whirlwind Texas experience, wrapping it up here at the coachemup podcast.
Dude, honestly, I'm glad that we can be the exclamation point on what has been a logistical feat of momentous effort on your part. You've done a lot in the past 48 hours, so you can crash land here.
All right.
Yes. Well, yeah. You could let it all hang out on this show, dude. Yeah.
Hopefully these bags aren't obstructing my baby blues too much for people. I know that's what they really
I don't think anything can hold the baby blues back, dude. So look, I know who you are. Most people listening to this show are going to be familiar with you or your work in some capacity. But for those who are not, can you give us the Chad Wesley Smith elevator pitch, kind of where you started, your coaching experience, and what you're up to now?
Yeah. So I guess starting as an athlete, I was a shot putter in college at the University of California, Berkeley, and then a small school called Concordia. I won the NAIA twice at Concordia, but nice thing about track is if you throw far, you get to go against big schools too. So through 1950, about 64 feet in college, and then 1 year competing as a post-collegiate where I threw 20 meters, 65 feet, 7 inches. But at that point, I had started my company, Juggernaut Training Systems, right after. So I graduated college in May 2009. We opened in September 2009 with a sport performance facility in Orange County, California. So since I was working about 70 hours a week, then I decided, probably not going to make the Olympics with this setup, and needing to catch up to guys anyways. So it's like, well, I'm already really strong, so I can kind of just cut out half my training, the heavy ball throwing part of things, and go into powerlifting. So I did my first powerlifting meet there in October 2010, about 4 months after my last track meet. Did pretty well with that. Went on to write. I saw the program I used for that first meet was the Juggernaut method. Released an ebook of that a few months later, and that was kind of it was sort of just me and Jim Wendler back in 2010. It was 5-3-1 in the Juggernaut method.
Yes, dude.
And people, other powerlifters are contacting me like, bro, well, how do you write an ebook? Like, this is some revolutionary shit back in 2010.
Well, dude, there was not much out there.
Yeah, it was.
There just wasn't.
It was a different world.
Yes.
Yeah. So, from that moment there in 2010, continued to compete in powerlifting, went on, powerlifting and strongman kind of back and forth. So became a professional strongman by winning our North American Nationals, which seems like a misnomer, but I guess Canada's going to be 51st state anyway soon, so more accurate.
Starting to look that way.
Yeah. So won North American Nationals in 2012 to become a pro strongman, and then in powerlifting, ended up squatting 440 kilos, 970.
Jesus.
And belt and knee wraps, bench 567, deadlifted 815 for a best total of 1,055 kilos, 2325, which at the time I think was like the 17th best in the history of powerlifting. I'm going to be down to like probably in the 30s or 40s now, but I don't pay attention to that anymore, so
sure.
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
And then just kind of continued writing and coaching and making content. So Juggernaut Method, Juggernaut Method 2, Scientific Principles of Strength Training with Dr. Mike Isertel, Dr. James Hoffman. Traveled all around the world teaching, people how to bend their knees and stand up better. So, I've probably done 250 seminars all around the world since, first one was in 2010. And, I think the last one I did now was in, I guess, 1 or 2 since post-COVID, but
yeah,
but about a good 10-year stretch of
Just beating the block down, running the tour, dude.
Yeah, 15 to 40 seminars a year.
Holy shit, dude.
When I really had it going, like 20.
How does a guy your size? Here's the real question. It's not that you're doing that many, speaking events, which by the way is incredible in and of itself. Travel.
Yeah.
For a guy like you.
Yeah. So especially back, when I was running the gym and coaching all the time, like it would be red eye out on Friday night to, wherever, Philadelphia or something from Orange County. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd fly from LAX because it was any savings I could have, I needed at that point. So that meant a red eye and it meant the middle seat. I'm not paying premium for that window or aisle back then.
Right.
But I came to understand that the middle seat was actually the place for me to be because you dominate the row from the
middle.
Window.
You're the worst case scenario for the A and C seats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like window seat, the wall's jamming me up. My shoulders are too broad for that. Aisle,
you're kind of spilling into it.
Yeah,
the flight attendants like move your fucking leg.
Yeah, I'm getting my elbow, my shoulder whacked.
Right.
I feel like I need to lean away from the person in the middle and give them their space. But when I'm in the middle, neither the window or aisle can reasonably expect that I lean away from them.
Right.
So I'm just there existing. So there was a lot of that, a lot of red eyes, and I was doing stuff like, I remember flying to New York or New Jersey, maybe doing 2 sessions of a seminar at Zach Evanesh's gym. So we did like a 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., got lunch, and then went from 2 to 6, and then drove to like Long Island, and then did the same thing, 2 sessions, 8 to 1 and 2 to 6 in Long Island at another gym. And then it was like the last word of the seminar comes out of my mouth, and I was like, can someone take me to the airport? And, I'm a 7:30 flight back home, land at LAX at 11 p.m., get home to Orange County. It's, near 1 a.m. and started up again the next week. So yeah, a lot of that. And just through all that process, gotten to coach, powerlifters and I'm probably most well known in the powerlifting world. But it was really, I'm a sport performance coach, and we were a sport performance gym. I was doing powerlifting, but coaching sport performance. So I've gotten, I think, a pretty unique situation to work with such a wide breadth of athletes, both in sports, like what sport they're doing, from our friend Blaine McConnell.
Yep.
Football players, MMA, jiu-jitsu, tons of football, basketball, baseball, soccer, water polo, swimming, and then all the powerlifting, strongman, weightlifting stuff as well. And then from high school youth athletes up to NFL players and guys fighting in the UFC. So I've gotten to really have a wide exposure there, and I think that that's really shaped me as a coach, is that I've been effectively able to take that breadth of experience and see what's useful from, I think, what people would see as maybe disparate fields, and take what's valuable and use it across the board.
You mentioned Blaine, friend of the show, shout out, Story Poppy. He'll always be Story Poppy to us. Mm-hmm. What a freak show that guy is.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck's going on over there? But he and I had a moment where we kind of bonded further when we really met for the first time. Somehow you had come up in conversation, and he said that he had worked with you for a while. And I was like, dude, I don't know if you remember this, but there's an article you wrote. I forget what it's titled, but it's like something like if you wrote West Side, or if you did West Side.
How I would West Side.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the first program I ever took very seriously. I was just like, I'm going to do this. And Blaine and I both had a moment where he was like, dude, I did the same thing. And so that article, I mean, I ran that program like for a year straight and consistently got gains. And the funny part about it, like if I remember from that article, I think you wrote in the article, you're like, actually would not recommend training like this necessarily, but
it's
if I were to, this would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Is that right? Did I get it right? Yeah.
Like, I'm probably the most noted internet hater of West Side training. And I used to be like diehard in West Side. There was a weird, maybe sliding doors type of moment in my life that when I was still really into West Side, and I think still throwing the shot put, I was supposed to go on a trip out there and go to West Side on Friday and Elite FTS on Saturday, and like Lexan Extreme, which your audience may not be very familiar. That was like Chuck Vogelpohl's gym at the time on the Sunday. And the trip ended up getting canceled. And
that's like the West Side Holy Trinity, those three, actually.
And I didn't end up making the trip until like 6 or 7 months later. And there'd been a marked shift in my thinking towards training in between those times. But had I gone on that trip, I may have been so far down the rabbit hole.
No point of return.
It's very possible.
If you had gotten one Vogelpohl strapped to your body, that would have been the final straw.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from, you can't go full Vogelpohl. You know what I mean? That's incredible.
Yeah, that thing will change it, man.
Hey, so
ruined me for all other programs.
You mentioned that shift that you had in your thinking, because up until that point it had been West Side dominant for you.
Yeah,
correct. That philosophy.
Yeah, I used a lot of conjugate training and West Side ideas and Joe DeFranco stuff. When I was throwing the shot put, and it was very successful for me. Like I was very strong and explosive, and then when I was getting ready to do my first powerlifting meet, I was like, well, all I've been doing is box squatting, so I better find out what I can do without the box.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, this is a problem, And so I'd say it was that, and it was an interaction with, actually a secondhand interaction with James Smith, the thinker.
Yes.
In which he had told a mutual friend of ours, a guy named Bob Eilenfeld, who was the angry coach on Elite FTS back in the day. Basically, he's like, that shot putter guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And I don't know that that's how James said it to Bob. He probably said something more like, that shot putters, morpho-biomechanical predisposition to application of force is suboptimal or something,
right?
Like that. And Bob relayed it to me that James said you don't know what the fuck you're up to. Yeah, and I was kind of taken aback by it, but then ended up having a conversation with him to kind of, and as he started going into these Bondarchuk ideas and different stuff, I was like, all right, this is clicking for me, and a lot of that was based around special strength and transfer of training and dynamic correspondence, all that. As I remember having a chart about Reese Hoffa, a multi-time Olympic shot putter, a great thrower from trained down at University of Georgia. And it had stand throw and overhead backwards and jumps and sprints and lifts. And I was better than him, significantly better at every single thing on this chart, except the bottom thing, which was how far you could actually throw the shot put. Yeah, in the real event. And
interesting.
Yeah, so that was kind of like, well, maybe these really high, fatigue, demand, general things are taking away from the more specific task. So that was definitely a shift. And then I had the good fortune to employ James for about a year, maybe 2 years after that. And, that was when I underwent kind of my biggest transformation and really what created a lot of the ideas I have about training now.
Yeah. So it feels like you kind of had like this period of time. It was almost like a rapid period of growth. Mm-hmm. It was about 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And from that place of being because we all kind of start somewhere, right? Like you start somewhere, it works. And then the thing, no matter what it is, at some point for most of us, it's like, it isn't quite working.
Yeah.
Right. particularly if it's like only like one way of thinking or one way of problem solving. And one or two things happen. You either just keep doing the thing and you keep getting the same result, or you become willing to say, well, maybe old James Smith maybe that guy had a fucking point. You know what I mean?
And that ability, I think, for coaches, and I see it more with powerlifting, and I don't want to make this a whole like rip on West Side Conjugate type of stuff, but I do see a lot of guys who it's like, you've been doing this way for like 20 years, and it hasn't been working for the last like 18 of them. Are you not noticing that? Like,
right.
Like, it can't always be that you fucked up your weight cut or whatever it was that threw the meat off. Like,
lost my brace.
Yeah. It's worth that's always kind of a weird thing to me. But have you read the book Range?
No.
By David Epstein?
I have not.
Really, really good book. Same guy that wrote The Sports Gene, also very interesting.
Okay.
But, sort of the premise of Range, he frames it as like Tiger Woods versus Roger Federer and early specialization versus generalist. But kind of he makes a point in there because he uses sport examples, but also music and math and business and all this different stuff. And he's kind of like, if all you got are engineers, then you only got engineering, solutions to the problems. So if all you got is powerlifting, if all you got is West Side, if all you got is Juggernaut, if all you got is whatever, you only have that narrow scope of solutions to the body, which is going to present tons of different problems,
innumerable issues. Yes. There's a quote. It's like you can't fix a problem with the same brain that created it.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. And
it's the premise is essentially what you're alluding to there with like, if you're only stuck in one box and you're like you have one toolbox, it doesn't matter how long you dig around inside that same toolbox. If it's only the same tools, there's not going to be a new solution to whatever your issue is. You know what I mean? I'm interested to know. So you have that period of growth, and then fast forward to now. Like, have there been any other like moments you've had where there have been like big philosophical shifts or new information that's come in that's challenged your way of thinking, or anything new that has your interest piqued currently?
Philosophical shifts, I'd say no, because the way that James helped me and got me thinking about training, it was a philosophy encompassing all other philosophies, kind of like, but along the way, some things that I think were really powerful to me to develop skill and understanding as a coach a lot better were getting injured myself. So herniated discs and all that stuff, and then working with guys like Dr. Quinn Hennock in rehabbing that and gaining a better understanding of the physical therapy side of things. Working with guys like Dr. Mike Israetel and the nutrition and bodybuilding side of things, and just really being able to take whatever's useful from all those different places. And I'd been controlling my own training since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
I've had very few times in between that with a coach. So about 3 semesters of time at Cal, and then 3 powerlifting meets that I worked with Josh Bryant. And even the stuff with Josh Bryant was very collaborative. But from that time when I was 14, 15 years old and like scouring the early 2000s internet for ideas about how to train, but then also
rough landscape.
Yeah.
Barren.
My jump soles workouts, we can get it.
Dude, oh my God.
We got to come back to that. I don't want to get sidetracked on jump soles though. Because that could be a whole show in and of itself. But I knew that, I was just always very open to approach coaches and talk to them. So I had, the good fortune to have a couple really exceptional high school throws coaches in my area. And I would be at these track meets by myself. Like my high school team wasn't good. the coach who I worked with, who just like coached me in the ring, he was a college coach, so he wasn't even around at my high school meets.
I see.
So I sort of latched on to these other two coaches, Tony Chiarelli and Bill Pendleton. And Tony Chiarelli, he coached like three of the four best discus throwers ever in California. He was coaching Olympians. His daughter was a resident for weightlifting at the OTC. His other daughter is the throws coach now at University of California, Irvine.
Holy shit.
So he was this exceptional coach, and Bill Pendleton, excellent as well. And they were really open to even though I was their competition, I guess, to talking to me when I was 15, 16, 17 years old about how to train and getting ideas from them. So that was huge. And then even as I became better and better at track and got to be at bigger meets with college coaches and stuff, and then through the recruiting process, like I wanted to talk to the coaches about like how to train. Right. I had to do that for myself. So I'm talking to guys like John Frazier and Dave Dumble and these exceptional throws coaches, and just sort of like until if they could be coaching their guy at a track meet, like I remember being at junior nationals after my junior year of high school, it was up at Stanford. And like, I was just going to talk to these guys and ask them questions until they told me to go away, which fortunately they never really did. I think, when you're passionate about this stuff, you're excited to help, a young guy with that kind of information. So I was just always seeking that out. And that sort of, character trait or whatever continued, and it was throws coaches, but then I wanted to talk to the sprint coaches as well at Cal, and our multi-events coaches, and the strength coaches for other teams. And, so that led, I was just, because I was just interested in being athletic and being strong and fast and powerful and
being a juggernaut, one might say.
One might. And all the things that come with that. So I got to talk to, as time went on, guys like Corey Schlesinger and, Dustin Perry at the 49ers, and all these, from different sports and different backgrounds and different schools of thought, and, become this like amalgamation of all these great coaches.
So something that quality of like, and it being fueled first by like wanting to actually experiment with myself first, I can very much so relate to. Never did it at the level you did, but like that, the genuine curiosity came from like, I want to know I want to experience these things. And like getting to run it through that filter first has helped me be a more effective coach. And then of course, like the genuine curiosity and willingness to learn and to take in new information has been, I really can't even imagine like operating in a different way than that, But to that point, like we were talking about this before we started briefly, not always, it's not always the case that someone who is very successful as an athlete, in your case, in throws and strongman, as a power lifter, that does not always necessarily correlate to being an effective coach. And I think that there are some reasons for that. I think there are probably pros and cons to having been a high performer. And I'm sure you've seen that as well, where it's like someone was really great. They're now trying to coach people exactly the way they did it, and it maybe doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of being a former athlete and then becoming a coach and working with other athletes?
Yeah, I think the biggest pro is for sure from like a psychological side that you're going to be able to relate to what they're trying to do. And as they, hopefully rise up the ranks of competition and are doing it at a higher and higher level, if you've done it at that high level, you're going to be able to give them an insight to at least your own experience.
Yeah.
That someone who, has only coached it or read about it, learned about it might not have. And I think that there's some powerful things there from, whether it's a buy-in with a group of athletes, Yeah, or it's just that those insights and empathy to what they're doing and what's necessary to do from a commitment standpoint. I think the cons are going to come in, in strength sports. It's kind of simple. Some guys are just fucking strong,
right?
And I am one of those guys. Like,
I was going to ask you, you've always been strong, right?
I have always been strong, but not in. I think that and this is probably biased, but I think I did a lot of really good training. Some of it I sort of happened upon when I was young, and then some of it I was very purposeful about as I became more experienced. Like, I benched 150 pounds at the start of my freshman year of high school.
Whoa.
Like I was not like an early maturer in any way there. So it wasn't, some remarkable thing. But by the time that I got to Cal, like the first time we maxed out at Cal, so right before Christmas break, I think as a freshman on the track team, like I was pretty much the strongest guy at the whole school. Which the strongest guy at your school when you're in high school or something is one thing. Yeah. You have a Division I football team and track team and all that is another thing. But I was squatting like in the low 600s and benching about 400.
Shit.
But there's still a lot of guys, big football players and throwers and stuff who are stronger. And so I kind of just kept chipping away at that. But of course, the genetic material has to be there. Like,
sure.
I don't know if my knee hopefully is not in the. Well, no, it is. That's not a camera view you want to use.
That's the wide shot. We'll make sure they pan out for this.
Yeah. Otherwise, keep it tight on the face. But like this kind of elephantitis of the knee, this cannot be trained.
This
is
that was passed down.
Yeah, this is born not built.
Yes.
There. So and then fiber type and all that kind of stuff. Like like I got to do some pretty freaky stuff in speed, power, and strength world, but I think a lot of good training. So anyways, some guys are just fucking strong.
Right.
And they don't really know how that happened or that could have happened. They could have done it any which way.
Yeah.
And so they don't have the understanding of, they might know about their program.
Right.
But they don't understand programming.
Yes.
So while they are a big, strong guy, they might not know how to coach a small, strong woman or,
right.
Young athletes, older, and all these changes in between. So they could have a narrow scope. I think something, and even where I run into issues too, is not understanding people who are not as motivated.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's just kind of a reality of the situation for a lot of people. And
most people are not.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
The training piece is not the number one priority necessarily. That was something when I first started working with at the pro level, I just assumed kind of, I was like, hey man, the pros, they probably really important. And it was like the opposite.
Yeah.
Majority of guys are like, I do this because I fucking have to.
Yeah.
Not because some guys enjoy it. Yeah. That's always fun, but that's not the standard.
Definitely
necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that can be an issue for a lot of coaches who were really successful themselves, is they don't understand why people aren't as motivated or and from the training standpoint is different. If we're just like a sport coach, it's just like, well, why can't you just do it like this? Like Magic Johnson, like a famously bad coach.
Yep.
Because a lot of, I think it was just like, well, why don't you just do it like I did it?
Do what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look that way, throw ball this way.
Yeah.
Hit him right in the hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yeah, I think something else that comes up just as you're talking about that too is like, it's almost, and it's in the same vein of what I feel like you're touching on, where it's like, if you've had success doing something a certain way, or perhaps it's come to you easier than maybe it does for most other mortals, like being able to break things down in a way that's digestible and understandable, because like I do see it. Like most of the best athletes I work with, I can say, do it like this. And they go, bet. And then they just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not everyone is able to take direction in that way and just make something happen. I mean, they're just not.
Yeah.
And I've seen it because I was not one of those athletes necessarily that could just make something happen. You know, I had to like really find a way to understand and break it down. And so I feel like for me as a coach, that's something that's kind of like a strong suit, where it's like I have the ability to, in most cases, not always, trust me, I miss the boat all the time, but
Given internal cues, external cues,
yeah,
kind of
like just like
analogies,
whatever,
right?
what levers do we need to pull
Yeah.
to get you there, or at least fucking close enough that you're beginning to understand
Yeah.
what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And I've seen it in other coaches, former Olympians, people that I've worked with, who I watch them talk to an athlete, and then later I'm like, dude, he did not know what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, what's the best training app on the planet?
It has to be TrainHeroic. Gone are the days of sending the old crusty PDF. Now we have a sleek new app.
It's easy to use. There's videos with descriptions. You get to track and log your weight, your reps. There's a community chat function. You can submit videos. You can get feedback.
How about the leaderboard, Tim?
I started using TrainHeroic first as an athlete and someone who wanted to learn. Now I use it as a coach. Athletes and other coaches can go and be a part of my training community and get results.
Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just like to train, use the link in our description to find out how you can train on the best app in the world.
And join us on TrainHeroic today. The coachemup podcast has partnered with Alio.
Let's go!
Not only is Alio found in 85% of Power 5 schools, but they also offer at-home solutions from racks, flooring, rigs, barbells, bumper plates, your favorite accessories like straps and weightlifting belts, you name it, Alio's got you covered. Go to alio.com/coachemup and get access to the same equipment that they're using in the best facilities with the best athletes on the planet.
And now, back to the show.
Something kind of in the same vein as well that people tend to struggle with from like a strength and conditioning standpoint, and something that always frustrates me is coaches who they competed in a strength sport or actively compete in a strength sport.
Right.
And they want to use that training for the athletes they work with.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. And that's something like I have to combat all the time, because of course people would assume like you were really good at powerlifting, so you probably like oh, he's a powerlifting guy, like he's not going to be able to help with speed or whatever like that, and like, no, I did powerlifting, but you aren't doing powerlifting, so why would I make you do powerlifting?
Right.
You know, and whether it's weightlifting, it's kettlebells, it's strongman. Like I wrote an article while an active competitor in professional strongman, why strongman training is not for athletes. I've had several other strongman competitors who own, performance gyms and work with non-strongmen who were very upset about it. And I wrote that article because I had seen a video of a coach at the University of Florida at the time. I don't know where he is now, hopefully unemployed, training Ryan Lochte. Yeah. The swimmer, and the Ryan Lochte's doing tire flips and log clean and press and stuff.
Sake.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like I saw this thing on ESPN around probably the 2012 Olympics, and I was like, nope, I can't stand for this.
Yep.
And let's just start writing.
Yep. Immediately the hands started typing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Tim Karen, shout out Tim Karen. He said something a few weeks back, and it resonated with me at the time, but now the more I've been able to digest it, I'm like, damn, this is so useful. But the quote is to not confuse activity with accomplishment. And holy shit.
I've heard that one from Tony Holler as well.
Yeah. I look around, and this is something that's come up on the podcast before, but you also assume that because someone is working with Ryan Lochte, that the understanding of there being a difference between activity, flipping fucking tires, just hitting an airdyne bike as hard as you possibly can for 30 seconds and then immediately going into hurdle hops, you know, like just whatever the case may be. I say that because I literally just saw that yesterday on Instagram and I felt anger inside of my, I don't know. But you would assume that because people make it into positions to work with populations that like a lot of other coaches like aspire to work with, that there are basic understandings of scientific principles and the understanding that activity and accomplishment are two separate things. That's not the fucking case, Chad, at all. And when I see things like that, it makes me, you know, I'm like, I'm here. The content machine is started now and it gets me fired up. Where do you see that the most? Like, is there a sport or a space that you see just fucking nonsense more than other places?
I guess if I had to pick a sport, probably like combat sports, you get a lot of it.
Yeah. You mean punching, holding 5-pound dumbbells that's not an effective training strategy for a fighter?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we could also be putting like snorkels on and doing all kind of other stuff, but that, and then I think sports like, you know, baseball and lacrosse and stuff sometimes tend to be a little bit behind other sports in where their strength and conditioning is at. So you see things that are maybe more gimmicky or a bigger misunderstanding of like what is a special strength exercise or what does specificity actually mean, and it leads them to do some goofy stuff.
Since you brought it up, would you mind giving us a definition, your definitions of what a special strength exercise is and its purpose, and then also specificity? Maybe we start with specificity.
It all starts with specificity.
Yeah.
So,
it should.
Yeah. So specificity, as we define in the scientific principles of strength training, is developing the underlying systems of sporting success. So with that, you're going to have an understanding of what makes this athlete successful. So what does powerlifting require? What does football require? What does baseball, basketball, you know, whatever it is require to be successful from a power, energetic, time domain standpoint. And then with that, a special strength exercise is going to be something that, you know, mimics the direction, duration, or velocity of a sporting movement. But, and this is the real important part and where a lot of people miss, overloads one of those qualities in some way. So, you know, if it's just the same thing, well, then it's just the same thing. But but is it going to go faster, you know, than normal? Is it going to require more force output than the normal activity? And it doesn't have to be exactly that. It can be, you know, any part of the sporting movement. So
to help like drive this home for listeners and people watching, can we use examples of like what special strength exercises would look like for, let's say, shot put?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of the special strength ideas came about from Anatoly Bondarchuk, who's the national team throws coach for the Soviet Union for 25 years, as well as being one of the best hammer throwers of all time himself. You know, so he kind of got to the point where he had these guys like Yuri Sadiq or Sergei Litvinov and realized like, hey, they're very strong in squat and snatch and clean. But what if they were only like 2/3 as good at those, but now really good at throwing, you know, a heavier hammer on a short wire, or, you know, these various weighted throws, med balls, puds, you know, that kind of stuff. So for the shot put, it could be something like, and this is a fun one because if someone posts themselves doing it on the internet, people who don't know what it is will get really upset. An exercise like the Nieder press, which is like this, like kind of like a jerk, kind of like a incline bench press, but you're standing up and very like rapid with the foot action.
Oh, where you're like, yeah.
And if you post a video of that, it's like, this is fucking stupid. And then you find out like, oh, that's like Olympic.
Oh, that's an Olympian.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a silver medalist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So, you know, a Nieder press, or, you know, throwing overweight or underweight shots. So you're either requiring more force or training a higher velocity. You know, different types of rotational throwing exercises, twisting, weighted twisting exercises, stuff like that. Those would all come into special strength. You could get into like using kind of like jammer arm type of stuff to overload that action, and obviously everyone's favorite training montage video, the Werner Gunther stuff in the long version of it. He's got like a giant shot put hanging from the ceiling on a wire or chain, and he's throwing that, and then as it comes back to him,
eccentrically, fuck yeah,
all that type of stuff,
yeah,
that would all fit in those categories.
Excellent.
But even so something like sprinting with a sled would be a special strength exercise. If sprinting is part of the sporting movement, which it is for a ton of sports,
yes,
you're overloading that sport movement in some way.
So with these, I feel like there's like this Mount Rushmore of like great coaches, and it's more than just some of the names I'm going to throw out, but like Vonderchuk, Vershansky, Bosch for some people are up there. But I spend a lot of time on social media. I run my business through Instagram, and a trend I see generally is like coaches just like kind of copy and paste, parroting what those coaches have said about training, not necessarily following those things. Something that's come up for me recently has been this concept of like early intensification. And the concept being, for those who are not familiar, that if training demands are too intense, too soon, too frequently for a young athlete, that theoretically speaking, it'll lower their ceiling or it'll diminish potential gains later. Is that an adequate?
Yeah. I think probably part of the argument too would be like, assuming they have some deficiency in their movement, they're going to more deeply ingrain those patterns with more intense loading.
So this is less of a question and more of a dialogue I want to open up with you. This has just come to me. This is not planned. Okay. My thinking on that, well, number one, I kind of have beef with just adhering to something, no matter how great the coach was. Blind adherence to something without actually having vetted it or investigated it or tried to experience it on your own. Nothing makes me want to throw my fucking phone across the room more than that. I can't really explain it. It shouldn't bother me to the level it does. Maybe I should talk to someone. But it does.
We're talking about
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. Yeah. You know what? This is going to be good for me. So there's this idea of like this sort of blind adherence to principles or ideas or concepts set forth by coaches who, haven't been in the game necessarily for a long time, even though I love and appreciate most of their work. So there's the asterisk. But then like I look at something like the concept of early intensification and I think to myself, okay, well, isn't that model being approached from the idea that this athlete actually has an opportunity to be competing into their mid and late 20s?
Yeah. So long-term athletic development is one of my favorite topics. And we could go on about
Please, let's fucking rip, dude.
I have to go on a plane. I FaceTime you from the Uber even. But yeah, so a lot of long-term development ideas and proper, maybe proper is not even the right word, but let's say proper long-term development strategies are based around the idea that the peak of that athlete is high-level performance.
Right.
But once you move wherever the peak is realistically based on their, genetics, and if their parents are normal and, they're probably not going to the NFL.
Let's just say they weren't born with knees like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whatever those are good for.
Bending, apparently.
Yeah. And standing up. That's the real key. But if their realistic career peak is like starter on their high school varsity team, then you can specialize earlier and to maximize that. And so much of the information that people will post about like, this percentage of NFL players that get drafted, played 2 sports in high school.
Yeah.
Like, of course they did. They're really athletic.
Yeah, they could do that. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because their coach was going to be like, oh, whatever you say, whenever you come back, we'll be pumped.
Nope, that's fine. You want to play basketball? Perfect.
Yeah.
You show up whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So, there's probably, I don't know if that's survivorship bias or confirmation bias or something. It's one of those things.
Sure.
Yeah. But that, I think, plays a bit of a role. So yeah, could you, I definitely am of the opinion that the best strategy, all things being equal, is going to be this kind of, I have a little system of this, of like different stages of like, you can do this many sports per year in this stage.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can recall this from memory.
This will be impressive.
If I remember correctly, your starters were, I consumed this content a long time ago. Swimming, gymnastics.
Yep.
Was it soccer?
Yeah. So swimming and gymnastics is
were the baselines,
that's
right?
like stage 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with me already.
Yeah.
And then moving into it, it was like pick 3, right?
So that would be stage 0 is the swimming and gymnastics stuff, and because swimming you could start before you can walk.
Chuck that baby in the pool.
Yeah. And the gymnastics, even if this is a mommy and me tumbling class type of thing, like.
Yep.
And when I say these things, gymnastics, it's not like competitive gymnastics. It's gymnastics-esque activity.
Gymnastics light.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some stretching, cartwheels.
Yeah. All that stuff.
Some awareness here.
And then the stage 1, would be about whenever organized sports can begin. Let's say that's about 5 years old, probably. Is probably doing 4 organized sports per year.
It was 4.
So one per season. And that's like 1 practice a week and 1 game per week. And that's going to be from like 5 to 8 or 9. And the biological ages here, again, like early specialization all gets thrown off if you want to be like a great female gymnast.
Yeah.
Because now all the times are
they're like, oh, she's 6.
Yeah. You're already behind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in that first stage, it's 1 sport. It's 1 sport per season. 1 practice, 1 game. You're not 7 years old and you play a 6-game soccer tournament on the weekend after you practice 3 times that week. Like, no, that's a recipe for disaster. And then keeping like omnipresent throughout that time, some sort of, training, which is going to be like gymnastics-like activity, track and field-based activity, sprinting, jumping, and throwing.
Yeah.
And some calisthenics and free play.
Yeah.
And then as they go to the next stage, maybe 10 to or like 9 to 11, 9 to 12. Maybe they go to 3 sports, and now they could practice 2 or 3 times a week. They might have the occasional tournament, but it's not like the American club sports model or AAU model. It's much more general than that. And then they have 1 season that's just for training, but it's not like formalized training. It's just, general physical preparedness, as some would say.
Yes.
Then, they could take that through like maybe even through junior high like that. And then they get to high school and you do 2 sports, and now you're practicing more frequently, whatever the demands are going to be. If those sports can be complementary in some way, that's great. It's football and shot putting, football and sprinting or wrestling or something. Track is going to be a great complement to it. I don't really, and this is coming, as a track guy, I don't really prescribe to the idea like, if you want to do track, if you want to get faster, do track. If you want to get faster for football, do track. Like, well, if you want to get faster for football, you should do like speed training that's like related to football. Yeah. Which even a lot of the 100 meters is kind of extra there. But but so at that point you're in 2 sports, and then you have real off seasons that are dedicated to physical, GPP and SPP, and then 18, 19 and beyond, probably as a unless you're the 0.1 of 0.1% of people, now you do 1 sport and into real annual planning.
Yeah. Thank you for laying that out. Also, I'm going to say this now so I don't forget, but you told me some news about a new job you just took on. So and we're going to bring the athletic development into that, the long-term athletic development. But to put a period on the early intensification thing, it's you nailed it. That's kind of what I was like intimating, where it was like most athletes, their peak is maybe making varsity on insert team.
Yeah.
That's as good as, you know what I mean? So if we're not getting some intensity or training them to a certain degree early on, they may not have a fucking shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Even in that example, though, I'd probably just the early generalist stuff is going to be really valuable.
Yeah.
It might just be moving up some of those timelines 1 or 2 years, kind of like so you're kind of compressing phase 2 and 3 in it.
Nice. You're the head coach of a football team.
No, not the head coach. I don't know.
Strength coach.
Yeah, I don't know.
Strength coach, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know enough ball to be the head coach.
So, first of all, congratulations.
Oh man, I love
Big deal. How epic. I've had the opportunity of being head strength coach for high school basketball. A little different, but I was blessed with a good group the past couple of years that liked to lift and frankly needed to get stronger or else they would have no shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. But tell me about how this came about. Like, how did the offer happen? And then what is the game plan, dude?
Yeah. So, I coached high school football before when I was in college, actually. My last 3 years of college, I was coached offensive and defensive line, ran the strength and conditioning. So I became a head strength coach first when I was 19, maybe just turned 20 years old. And that was at the high school that I went to. So I loved that. I loved everything about high school football. I think high school football done well is just such a huge formative piece for young men.
For sure.
And all the, I had a great dad and all that stuff, but they've got that piece of it for kids too. So the strength and conditioning part for me was just like, oh, this is awesome. And I really like lifting weights and sprinting and jumping, and I got really good at that. And that helped me, go to college on a scholarship and turned into a career that, I'm still doing 20 years later here. So being able to use those ideas of just kind of opening kids up to that stuff and helping them develop, I've always been really interested in. Then I do Juggernaut for going on 16 years now. And in that, the work became more automated. We had Juggernaut AI app and released that at the end of 2020. And at that point, it was kind of like, wow, like I don't have to do a lot on the day-to-day because I've already made 1,000 videos about how to, squat, bench, and deadlift. And I'm not really a new way coming about of how to do that.
Right.
So, things were sometimes too automated.
Yeah.
And I was getting kind of bored and stale feeling. And then last spring, I took on the prestigious job of I was the head coach of my nephew and his friends' flag football team.
Nice.
First graders.
So fun, though.
Yeah, it was fun. And we won the championship.
Let's go. No big deal.
Yeah. But during that time, I was like, it would be nice to coach some people who can actually listen to what I'm saying.
That's right.
And my little 49ers, they do their best. So at that point, I was like, maybe that'd be fun to get back into high school coaching. But I was like, I'm only a volunteer. Like, there's going to be some times where I just can't be there because, or I don't want to be there because I'm going to go play golf that day or whatever. Like, so it's only volunteer. That's all I will do. So I reached out to my old high school football coach who had since retired from being our head coach at our school, but was then doing position coaching at another school, which is a big rival to us growing up. So I reached out to Coach Cunningham, who I'd known since I was 5 years old. And it was like, hey, you think you guys got anything for me over there? And so he talks to our head coach, Kevin Heddig, and sets up a meeting. And, I was very upfront, like, just volunteer. Like, I want to be here to help. Like, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. They had a younger guy running their strength and conditioning at the time already. So I was like, yeah, perfect. Like, I'm just there to support, offer guidance when I can. And I get home from that meeting and tell my wife, like, yeah, he was like totally on board with the volunteer thing. And she's like, you're going to be there all the time, right? And I was like, what? And she's like, that's the only way that you know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe. So, I'm there about 4 or 5 hours a day now. And, so it's Corona Del Mar High School in Newport Beach. And so I run I'm the head strength and conditioning coach. I think we use the term chairman of strength and conditioning.
Wow, what a prestigious! Yeah. I've never heard that.
Well, that was kind of a joke because someone had asked Kevin, our head coach, like, so what's this guy is doing this for free? He's here all the time. Like, what's going on here? And he's like, well, he has like a lot of, just like he has this philosophy about how he wants to implement all this stuff. It's like kind of like like Stalin or something. And I was like. Like, you couldn't come up with
anything else.
Yeah, he was like, I think he said Stalin or Chairman Mao, and so that's where Chairman of Strength and Conditioning came about.
Oh Lord!
But I love it. So they're run strength and conditioning for freshmen through seniors in a very comprehensive manner. I also teach a leadership class over there for our aspiring team captains are required to do that. Because so much of what I love high school football is really from the team culture standpoint, and like I was like obsessed, and I probably still am with De La Salle, and De La Salle High School, the streak, 151 game win streak, undefeated for 12 years, a team in Northern California, and they did it with a lot of kind of regular kids, 220-ish pound offensive and defensive linemen going up against his 300 pound kids and beating them. And they had some amazing players too, like Maurice Jones-Drew and DJ Williams and whatnot, but a lot of regular guys too. And this incredible team culture. And it was about more than, winning football games. And, as cliche as some of that stuff, like kind of the score takes care of itself, is like they were really about the process and developing young men and just some amazing things that I'd heard about that program and then got to be exposed to it some at Cal because he was the head of Olympic sports when I was there and now the head of all strength and conditioning, a guy named Mike Velasquez, that he was at De La Salle from 92 to 2002. So 11 of the 12 years of the streak.
Wow.
So I got to talk to Velasquez and he set it up for me to go to De La Salle when I was still a student at Cal. I drove over there every day for spring football for 2 weeks and shouted at the coaches and got to see what they were doing. So I'd always just really been into that side of things. And then also being at Cal, got to be exposed to another incredible team culture, Cal men's rugby with Jack Clark, who's some combination of like Ron Swanson and Jesus, I'd say. Just like the most impressive, badass dude you could ever imagine. Incredible mustache, huge calves. Mustache only rivaled by the size of his calves. And he was a guest speaker at our first track team meeting when I was there on the track team. So I'd been at school for like a week. And this 6'6", 265 pound, guy was probably in his 50s at the time, walks in and looking like a Tom Selleck and talks to us about grateful for everything, entitled to nothing, the motto of Cal Rugby. And that, really resonated with me and stuck with me. It was something that was important to Juggernaut, 5 years later when I started it and still today. So, being able to kind of take ideas from those places and try and implement it along with all the strength and conditioning piece as well as I love it.
God, it's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome to find some enthusiasm and find some passion in something and because I'd imagine for the longest time, Juggernaut was like the sole purpose.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
Can you talk about that as well? I mean, 16 years, you
16
said?
years this
That's
year,
fucking monumental. So congratulations to that. I mean, that's incredible. Can you talk about what the process looked like for you starting Juggernaut, the early years, and then how things transformed as time has gone by?
Yeah. So like I said, I'd controlled my own program since I was 14 years old. So I was just always very interested in strength and conditioning, but didn't really think of it as a potential career. I guess while I was going through college, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But so I'm at Cal for 2 years, and then track team was kind of a mess up there. I was in the number one recruiting class for men's track. Our 2004 class at Cal was, I think, 13 guys. Only 3 finished at Cal. Everyone else transferred or quit.
Wow.
So I was one of the ones that transferred to go down to back home to Southern California, not doing track for a year there while I was going to junior college, but I was coaching high school football and track and running the off-season stuff. And do that for the next 2 years, but while I get back into track, and I'm doing well with that. And through a very successful track season, then it was going to go back to Cal and be the throws coach at Cal. So I remember I won the Stanford Invitational. I think people were looking around. They're like, "What's a Concordia? Like, who the fuck is this guy?" And so I win that meet, and I have a conversation with the Cal coaches up there, and they're like, this will work out. You come in and be the coach. And so I was pumped to do that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, first year assistant track coaches don't make any money basically in a very expensive place to live. And I, still wanted to keep training and try and make the 2012 Olympics. So I was like, I'm going to have to coach, train, probably have another job. Like, this is going to be brutal, impossible.
Yeah.
So I decided to pass on that job. And when I passed on that job, through my senior of college, I'd worked with a physical therapist and just kind of while I'm laying on the table getting treatment, what do you want to do after college? And I talked some about strength and conditioning, and what I saw is a void in the market there in Orange County for like real strength and conditioning gym, that there was Velocity and these kind of like, big shiny speed, agility, quickness centers that were just kind of milling people through.
Yep.
But I was all about like DeFranco's. I was like, no, we're going to be fucking badass. And we're going to flip tires and use chains and get strong as shit and do real training. And it's going to be awesome. So I'd kind of, talked about this. So word gets back to this physical therapist. I'm not taking the Cal job. And she reached out and was like, hey, are you still interested in opening a gym like that? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And she's like, write a business plan and like maybe I can invest in it. So that was, let's call it May 1st, 2009. Mm-hmm. So I graduated college 2 weeks later and started working on this business plan. What I thought was a business plan because I had no fucking idea. So I was working with a guy, one of my great friends, Nate Winkler, who was a sprinter on the track team at Concordia, and he was getting his MBA, so he should have known better about a business plan. But he's since learned, as he's recently sold his own app company. Oh boy! So he figured out what a business plan. He figured it out. Yeah, he figured out what a business plan was. But we were in the process of figuring it out. So we pretty much start writing the business plan. We like June 1st, 2009. We pitch it to her July 1st. She goes for it. We get a lease on a warehouse August 1st, and we're open September 1st.
Whoa.
And we had 0 clients to start.
Holy shit!
I'd been coaching high school the last couple of years, but I coached football and it was football season, so those guys weren't going to train then.
Right.
So we just started going for it. Like our probably like an ignorance is bliss kind of situation because we were like, starting a new business in the recession, right? And I was like, the fuck's a recession? And like I didn't know. Like why would I have known about that? I didn't have a job. So
I mean, nothing to you.
Yeah. So we just start going, and we're cold calling places and going to club soccer tournaments and shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all that stuff. And one by one we kind of get some more, and then got a couple really good setups with some club teams. Like we had like 250 girls from all one club volleyball team. a couple like club water polo deals where like this team begat another, and it was awesome. Jiu-jitsu stuff, that was a fun cold call. And even being here in Austin, my first jiu-jitsu client, he moved to Austin probably in like 2012 or 13. He had brought me at that point 20 black belts.
Wow.
So I'd have like, they'd all had moved from Brazil, and they were opening their schools in California and training. And so I started with him, and I was like, I'll train you for free. I walk into his gym one day, it's a 6'7" Brazilian guy, Fabio Vilela. So he has like 4 Gracie Bajas in the Austin area now. Wow. South Austin, Round Rock, a bunch of places. And Giganchino is his nickname. And so I was like, I'll train you for free. Like, if you like it, tell your friends. And so we trained for like 2 weeks. Then he starts bringing 2 other black belts with him. And then it's just boom, boom. And it would be like, the 6 weeks before Worlds, and I've got 20 black belts, and guys are flying from Brazil and Europe, and like, hey, Chad, you got to train, you got to smash everybody. It's the Juggernaut, let's go Juggernaut. And
that was really good, by the way. You have spent some time.
Yeah, I've been around a lot of Brazilian guys. So, guys like that. So it just worked out really well. And then when I made the switch from track to powerlifting, and started writing, and I was sponsored by Elite FTS at the time, so that gave me a good outlet to get my messages out there, writing articles. And in my 2 years or so with them, I think I had maybe 35 or 40 articles that I wrote for their site. And this was back when they only used to do like 5 articles a week, like all on Fridays. And it was like, we're waiting for Friday. It was like, oh my God, it's new articles. I think they might have picked up the frequency for a while. I don't know if the quality stayed up with that, but and so I was doing that, and then Juggernaut Method ebook, and it was just kind of figuring it out as I went along, and we were first to do, or early to do, a lot of things. Like I said, the guy Nate that I started the company with, he had moved back to North Carolina in 2011, and started another company, like a web development company. So we were still partnering together on stuff, and like they had built us this full custom like subscription website. So we were doing premium content, articles, and programming stuff in there back in like 2013 or 2014, wow. and then I was doing a podcast there, like a powerlifting podcast, in like 2014, I think, when not everyone had a podcast.
Right.
Simpler times.
Simpler. Yeah. Much simpler.
And
we give a podcast to anyone these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I look back at some of it, like it was mistimed. Like obviously I wish I knew then what I know now.
Right.
And we didn't quite have the product to match the content. Then that was Juggernaut AI, which came later, kind of after I was done competing in powerlifting, and where in some ways, like I was kind of like, I'm kind of a little tired of some of it, or just kind of moving beyond that world in some ways. I love lifting and training and stuff, but I'm not, in the powerlifting world day to day now, certainly like I was, 10 years ago.
Right.
But through all that, and writing articles and writing books and helping other powerlifters organize their ideas and stuff into books, and how to present themselves online, and doing, however many thousands of YouTube videos we have and all that kind of thing, and traveling around doing all these seminars, the thing that guided everything that I was doing and we were doing was, how do we help people reach their goals? How do we help coaches and athletes reach their goals through the content and products that we create? And I saw other companies come and go, and they were cooler or sexier or whatever than we were for a time being. But I was like, the stuff that we do is still going to be here 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because like we're doing it for real, and we're I used to kind of get frustrated, but create this distinction of like, that there are internet coaches and there are coaches who put stuff on the internet. And I always want to be a coach who put stuff on the internet, not an internet coach who never had really coached anyone. Yeah, they just talked about it. So I was trying to help the real coaches guys who were coaching in college or professional and who didn't have that time or sort of understanding of how to do it, but I could reach out to them and interview them, or like, hey, do you want to write an article? Like, you don't have your own website to do it, so like, but I can put it up for you and sort of help out and bring real coaches to the internet and help them out with that. So fortunately, I got to do a lot of that. Like I posted, let's say, the first article that Mike Israetel ever had posted on the internet. Yeah, things like that.
Y'all's the scientific principles of strength training, by the way, just side note. The minute that was, I had that.
Oh, thank you.
I referred back to that was the guiding light for my formative years as a trainer and a coach.
Thank you. I'm glad it helped.
It did.
Yeah.
Still does.
Yeah.
Wish more people would read it. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. Zach, what's the best training app on the planet?
It has to be TrainHeroic. Gone are the days of sending the old crusty PDF. Now we have a sleek new app.
It's easy to use. There's videos with descriptions. You get to track and log your weight, your reps. There's a community chat function. You can submit videos. You can get feedback.
How about the leaderboard, Tim?
I started using TrainHeroic first as an athlete and someone who wanted to learn. Now I use it as a coach. Athletes and other coaches can go and be a part of my training community and get results.
Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just like to train, use the link in our description to find out how you can train on the best app in the world.
And join us on TrainHeroic today. The CoachEmUp podcast has partnered with Alio.
Let's go!
Not only is Alio found in 85% of Power 5 schools, but they also offer at-home solutions from racks, flooring, rigs, barbells, bumper plates, your favorite accessories like straps and weightlifting belts, you name it, Alio's got you covered. Go to alio.com/coachemup and get access to the same equipment that they're using in the best facilities with the best athletes on the planet.
And now, back to the show.
Growing a brand, maintaining a business, I'm, just in my limited experience, peaks and valleys and kind of the day-to-day grind. What are some of the biggest lessons and takeaways that you've learned from that process?
Yeah. When people ask for like advice about starting a gym or something like that, I'm much better at making an internet brand than I was at running a gym. And there's probably just more potential in doing that stuff than there is of
brick and mortar. Yeah.
But my advice.
Would you recommend someone open, like just all things equal, someone's like, I want to open a gym. Are you like,
no, fuck no. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I know. That's how because I had dreams of opening maybe my own spot. And now I'm at a place where I've seen it done so many times. I just see the amount of effort, time, energy it takes. And then even sometimes it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah. And I say that like I loved our first gym. I loved it. It was so fun. And, every day was fun. Looking back, I'm sure, it's more fun looking back than it was in the time when we're cleaning toilets and just grinding and like, fuck, there's only like $87 in the bank account at the end of the month. And like, there were some really, really tight times. So I do suggest for people who do want to run a gym is to let demand dictate their growth. It's not we tried to be a bit more build it and they will come.
Yep.
And it worked out great and our gym did fine and, helped create the foundation for, what I think's been a pretty important company to this industry, but we should have started smaller and kind of just let it go. Like the DeFranco is like the ultimate model there. They started
literally a fucking basement, right?
Yeah, and like a storage closet.
Yes.
And so that kind of stuff. But I think being authentic to who we were. Like we would get accused a lot of times when Juggernaut started to get much more prominent in the online content space. So like from September 2012, when I was no longer with Elite FTS and we started really posting a lot of content and bringing in other writers, to September 2013, went from about 25,000 unique visitors a month to 250,000 unique visitors a month.
Holy shit.
And I think during that time, there people were like, "Oh, they're just saying that West Side's bad to try and get clicks." And it's like, no. Like those, we really didn't think it was good. Still
Yeah,
don't.
no, this is what I believe.
Yeah.
I'm also getting clicks. Yeah.
And so we were talking about what we believe, and we were kind of bringing in, maybe from in the powerlifting world, like some conversations that you'd have, at dinner after a meet, and putting those ideas, out there. But we were trying to present the information that we thought that people needed to know to get stronger, and the stuff that mattered to us. And again, the idea of internet coach or coaches on the internet, not internet coaches. So having like authentic voices there, and always letting that idea of how can we help people reach their goals be our North Star with it. And, that kind of just kept leading to like, okay, well, what other book could we make? What video series, and I've always been kind of a teacher.
Yeah.
Like I was going to be a teacher when in college. I was a history major. I was not a exercise science or something. And part of that was like the West Side and stuff where they're like, well, don't get exercise physiology because Americans don't know how to make people strong. Read this book by this Russian, So I didn't get, like a anatomy physiology class probably would have helped me at some point.
Right.
But,
Sure. Yeah.
I figured it out pretty well since then. But as a history major, and I was coaching high school football, so I was like, I'm going to get my teaching credential and be a high school history teacher and become the head football coach and do that stuff. So I'd done, parts of the credential program. So being able to take just kind of those ideas of like, well, how do I organize these YouTube videos into like a curriculum? And that's why we always do like a lot of series. And, it's like, watch part 1 before you watch part 2. Like it's going to build on each other. And, it wasn't just like all this random stuff. So, a lot of times I feel like it's just kind of like guessed right. I cared a lot and tried hard, and it worked out. Like looking back, I'm like, I didn't have a fucking plan at all. Like if I would have had a plan, it would be done way better than this, And a lot of that's like related to the timing and stuff. And obviously, like, if I could just go back, I'd be like, hey, you should make this app in 2009, and it'll be on the commercial where like there's an app for that, But I was like, what the fuck is AI, and how would I make a mobile app, But so some of our timelines didn't kind of line up ideally, but it's been fun. So
yeah. Chad, we're gonna get to some segments.
All right.
Very exciting stuff. All right. This first segment is called 3 Things. This segment is brought to you by Squat Wedgies. Use code coachemup15 for 15% off at checkout for the best squat wedge money can buy. All right. A lot of young coaches, people who are kind of on the precipice of starting their career, or they're just in the very beginnings of their career, listen to this show. What are 3 things, ideas, principles, concepts, considerations, 3 things that you would give to that young coach or trainer that wants to really make an impact in our industry?
I would encourage them to practice being a great communicator, whether that's in written or spoken. Because you could have all the best ideas in the world, but if you can't get them across to people, it's going to be hard to help them. So whether that's being able to communicate effectively with an athlete standing right in front of you, or with an audience of people at a seminar, or in a forum like this, the better they can get at that, the more effective they're going to be. I think it's to be open-minded and take a broad approach to what they're doing, to always be open and excited to learn from other people, and even people that you might feel like you disagree with. Yeah. As much shit as I talk, I still, there's things that I've, Westside was a valuable part of my development, and
100%.
And there, are important ideas I've taken from there, and I'm still, out here learning. That's why I'm, spent the last 48 hours in airplanes and Ubers going from coach to coach to keep getting better at this. So yeah, to be a generalist in that if you're a powerlifting coach, it doesn't mean that you just got to listen to other powerlifting coaches. So I would encourage you not to do that. You want to, like I think my sport performance background and track and field particularly And track I think does tend to be like the most advanced training because it's pure output.
Yep.
There's no way to hide behind technical, tactical, or anything, or tactical tactics to be successful. Like if you want to be the fastest runner, you have to run the fastest. So that those ideas kind of tend to be at the forefront. And my background there has helped me have a good perspective on it that some people who came from like just lifting haven't had. So whether it's you're a powerlifter, don't just listen to powerlifting coaches. You're a track guy, don't just listen to track coaches. Like there's going to be a lot of people who have valuable information for you. And then so we're going to be good communicators. We're going to be open-minded and learn from a lot of different people. And then the third one, I'm going to say to not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Like I'm very serious about strength and conditioning, but anyone who's seen various film parodies of mine or recent Conjunction Junction, did you see that one?
No.
It's because fucking Disney copyright wouldn't let it on Instagram. Made Conjunction Junction, but I was making a video about phase potentiation. And it really lended itself to it. Educational and fun. I have another one called Video Killed the Multiply Star, which I'll sing for you after, but not here, not on camera.
Incredible.
But yeah, have fun with it because, at the end of the day, like it's pieces of metal attached to another piece of metal and you make it go up and down and then you time, how fast you can run and jump. Like it's not the fucking end of the world.
Yep.
Like I used to get so worked up about these arguments of the training and now I'm kind of just like, well, okay, if you want to do it dumb, that doesn't really affect
Let
my life.
them.
Yeah.
Let them.
Yeah.
Yeah. My girlfriend just bought that book. I saw it sitting on the counter there. I was like, yeah. All right. Excellent. All right. This next segment is called Rant and Rave. This segment is brought to you by TrainHeroic. There's a link in the show notes. Click it. You're welcome. Shout out TrainHeroic for sponsoring the show. We love TrainHeroic. So as you look across the performance space in general, what is a rant or one thing that you see that you're like, this has to fucking end? Or just something that sticks out to you that you're like, we can do without this. And then we'll bring it back around. And maybe there's a trend or something that you've seen lately that you're like, yes, love that, want to see more of it.
On the rant side of things, I think because I am, a savvy veteran woosawing and just letting them, it doesn't really cross my mind that much of like what pisses me off. I used to get so pissed off about
it. Could be a retro rant.
That stuff. Yeah. Well, I've made those rants already. There's a book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David, and he talks about kind of finding these things in whatever industry you're in to like work against. And as I went through it, I thought about all these things. Like when I started Juggernaut, my enemy was the big speed, agility, quickness centers that didn't really train hard.
Right.
They didn't do good proper training. And I was so passionate about making us great to defeat them. And then it became, multiply powerlifting and I was like the champion of raw lifting and training in this different way. And we were working against each other and various other teams and companies and stuff along the way. And I've kind of just let a lot of that go now. I'm just like, there's enough out there for everybody. But so I don't know that I have a good rant in that sense. I mean, Joel Seedman or functional patterns or something like. I don't know.
Incredible.
I can waste my breath on that.
Exactly.
On the rave side of things, like in my time doing this, the development of coaches has been pretty phenomenal, and I think a lot of that is the access to information and people's ability to understand all these different parts of the training, where they're not just a speed guy, they're not just a strength guy, they're not just a mobility physical therapist type of person, but there's so many people who are doing this exceptional jobs of marrying all these fields and areas together. And I think that's just going to continue to push our industry further and further and help athletes, bigger, faster, stronger, what we've all been trying to do.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, when I first started coaching, I started dipping my toe into this space. It was like you had to pick one, or at least that was what was being promoted as a way to make the biggest impact, was to be a insert name guy.
Yeah.
Strength guy, the power guy, the speed guy, whatever the case may be. And you're right. I do feel like by and large, the average coach has much more of an understanding, and there's not like that label isn't necessarily.
Yeah.
It's not a necessity.
No. I mean, I would almost look at it as a negative.
Yes. 100%.
That they're like pigeonholed in a way, because, and there's been, the rise of like, people call them a high performance director or program manager or something, that people who can understand the sporting skill and the strength and conditioning side of things, like that's the ultimate. Like, Cal Rugby, they've had this for a long time, is that their strength and conditioning coach is one of their real rugby coaches too. And so he knows exactly what happened at practice, and he can, make those adjustments on the fly to either side of things. And that's what you see in the highest, output athletes in the world, and track and field athletes. It's almost always their event coach, so their technical coach is also their strength and conditioning coach. I think the more of that we get in football and basketball and stuff, the better off the athletes will be.
Yeah. Okay. I already know the answer based on what I think. If you weren't a coach, what would you be and why?
Oh, I mean, are you thinking that I'm going to say a teacher?
Teacher, yeah.
I wouldn't be though.
Okay, all right. Here we go.
Yeah, I realized that I couldn't be a teacher because, and a head high school football coach, because they have like a lot of bosses.
Yeah.
And I would not do well with that. I wouldn't do well with that at all. Growing up, I always wanted to be either an announcer or a sports agent.
You do got like a radio voice thing going on.
I wonder why some, announcers, why they change from like those old timey voices.
Yeah.
Like
What happened?
Yeah, like we had Fats McGee up at bat, for the.
Have you seen Shane McGillis's? Oh, all right. Well, we'll talk about that off air.
Right.
Yeah. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
But I agree. What the fuck happened?
Yeah. For the Cincinnati Meat Packers and
something.
Yeah.
It's like a line that occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pitching to Crazy Legs Johnson.
Yeah. The best athlete ever lived.
Yeah, why did they stop talking like that? Did they really ever talk like that?
Yes.
But maybe that could be my announcing niche, is to bring that back.
You bring it back.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And it was an announcer, and what else? What was the other one you said?
An agent, like a sports agent.
Nice.
Yeah. And so really connected with the first part, the sports parts of Jerry Maguire.
Could you
Actually saw Lee Steinberg, who Jerry Maguire is based on, and we were on the same flight to Oakland a few weeks ago.
Did you chat?
We did not. He was on a lot of phone calls, and then we didn't sit next to each
That
other.
actually tracks.
Yeah. He seemed busy. Yeah.
All right.
I was also surprised to see him on Southwest.
Yeah, interesting. One of us.
Yeah, not even business select.
Men of the people.
Yeah.
True. Southwest is just laws of the jungle. I love it. Though it's going away. You saw this?
No free bags, right?
No free bags and sectioned seating.
Oh, that's a big change.
Big change.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Overrated versus underrated. What are some principles, ideas, concepts you're seeing in performance currently that you think are overrated? It can be one, it can be multiple if you like. And then what are some of those same principles, concepts, or ideas that you feel like are currently being underrated?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be kind of pendulum swinging on stuff. Like there are things that are really valuable, like different isometric training stuff but if all you do is isometrics, like you're missing a big part of the training, or the like really twitchy, it's all velocity based. It's so far to that side of things. If that's all you do, it's going to be overrated. It's like a great part of training, but if that's all you started doing from the time you're 13 years old, like, well, you might be able to like flail your limbs around in space really fast, but you're not gonna be able to put any force into the ground. Like, it's all got to be part of things. So I think that the pendulum's probably a little bit swung that way right now, where 10 or 15 years ago, it was like, well, if your squat goes up, you're going to run faster, and that's not the case either. So, the people who can figure out that's more in the middle, like they're going to do well for themselves. Okay. So I guess that would put on the underrated side of things, like just being like strong as fuck, but that not being like the way that it has to happen is that's not the objective of the training. And talking for sport performance stuff, like that's a byproduct of great training. But lifting hard and putting on muscle and producing a ton of force, like that's like really good for most people. And I think, I see it with more speed guy type of people, is they want to take a lot of track and field ideas and directly apply them to sport. Let's have this football player train like a sprinter. And it's like, well, he's not a sprinter. He's got to change directions. He's got to hit people. He's got to, have enough capacity to go through practice and games. So you can't just apply these sprint training ideas, one for one without using the framework of specificity and understand what are the underlying systems of success. It brought it all back around for football or insert this other sport. And then it's even worse sometimes when the coaches want to use examples of people like Usain Bolt or Gout. Gout.
Is that it? Is it Gout or is it Gout?
It's G-U-O-T.
Got it.
Yeah. His dad came out in an article after and was like, everyone's been misspelling it. I don't know if that's how you say it, but I don't know how you would say it if it's G-U-O-T. But anyways, these guys who are like the most elastic, people like that guy he's barely even touching the ground. You know? Almost nobody else can sprint the way that those guys are sprinting. So like,
but we should train precisely. Yeah.
So like your 5'6", 175 pound, like high school running back who's not just all tendons and reactive elastic qualities. Like, he probably shouldn't pattern himself exactly after those guys, whether it's from a technical standpoint or
more front side
standpoint.
Yeah. I love that. In fact, that I've had a little rant about that the other day and this was kind of in the vein, I think I was having that same conversation we were talking about earlier about taking some of these models from other coaches who did things with like Olympic athletes and very specific events and trying to transfer them and disseminate that, or not even disseminate, just literally just copy paste. Yeah. It's like, and this is how running form should look like. Then it's, well, now hold on.
Well, the failure of coaches to like look at that athlete's body, and you see out in weightlifting all the time too, is the Chinese weightlifters were great. So, it's going to be panda pull and your torso is really upright and your knees are out wide. And it's like, well, the Russian lifters are really good too. And their technique looks like really different. Is it because those, more Northern European body types with longer legs and shorter relative torso versus like a longer torso and shorter relative legs, and maybe their hips are shaped differently? So like these guys stay over the bar and these guys get vertical real quick. Like, look in the fucking mirror and figure out which one you look more like.
Where do you fall along that spectrum?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, sometimes, you can just use your eyes and that can be enough. Okay, last segment, man. This segment is brought to you by Alio. We have a link available in the show notes. Really proud and excited to partner with Alio. They've been fantastic for us. This is called Unsolicited, solicited advice. So you're hopping in an Uber when the show ends, correct? You got to get to the airport. So the minute the show's in, you call your Uber, you hop in the Uber, and you get in the Uber, smells funny, traffic's kind of bad, South by Southwest, and you're hustling, you're hoping you get there, and it's dead silence because that's what you've clicked. You prefer it. 10 minutes into your ride.
I had a great talk with my Uber driver on the way to the airport yesterday.
You did?
By the way, yeah. But
So something comes over you and you feel compelled to give this Uber driver a piece of unsolicited advice. So I would like to solicit it from you. What is that advice? It can be anything. It can be training related, non-training related, any piece of advice.
Well, in this hypothetical, and his car smelled weird, it might be related to that. You want me to tell you about my nice Uber ride yesterday?
I would.
Yeah. Very thick Texas accent.
Okay.
So I asked him, grew up in Texas. And he's like, no, from Illinois.
What?
Yeah. He's like, but I grew up outside of, or in the middle of Kentucky. I was like, oh.
Okay.
I was like, closer to Lexington or Louisville?
Louisville. You got it.
Yes.
Nice.
So right then he's like, closer to Louisville. And he's like, I know she said that right. And I was like, and so I was going to get my street cred up right away. I do a bunch of work like real estate stuff in Louisville. So I'm out there
Oh, wow.
a couple times a year. But
I'm from Nashville, so I used to go up there and work a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun city. A lot of good food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were going on about, then we're into horse racing, and then he's like, I hope you like country music, and he turns it up, and I was like, is this Turnpike Troubadours? And he's like, oh yeah.
Wow.
And
Turnpike from the top rope. Let's go, dude.
Then he was playing Paul Cawthon for me, and I was like, I'm going to see this show, and he's, I saw them, and I'm going to this one, and so it was a great fun ride. We're talking
Shout
about
out Austin, Texas Uber drivers.
Yeah. Sam.
Shout out Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, if you're listening.
Sam. He threw the discus in high school.
No fucking way. This is your boy, dude.
Yeah, we were.
You guys, this is the Uber driver made for you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but he was in Dallas. So he drove me to DFW.
Okay.
Yeah. I should have changed it. But like, cancel the flight. Sam, drive me to Austin. Yeah.
Let's keep this fucking party going, dude.
Yeah.
Chad, we've run out of time, man. But first, I'd like to say thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming on the show. And not to make you uncomfortable, but this has kind of been like a little bit of a full circle moment for me, because you were one of the coaches when I first started taking training seriously, made a huge impact on how I view training and how I train myself and athletes. So thank you for your contributions.
You're welcome. Thanks for paying attention to that stuff, and doing a good job with it all.
Thank you.
Being one of the good guys.
Thank you. Yeah. Honestly, you heard that, everybody. So where can people find you, consume your content if they're not already familiar, and get connected with you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest stuff is all the social media places, at Juggernaut Training, Instagram, Juggernaut Training Systems on YouTube, at Chad Wesley Smith is my personal one, which is more like golf videos from time to time. And
nice.
Yeah. Those would be the big ones. And then the Juggernaut AI app, if you're interested in customized, personalized training, as similar as it could be of what I would actually rate you if I was your coach, but I'm not, because you can't afford me. Nice. But you can afford the Juggernaut AI app.
Yes, you can.
With a 2-week free trial at juggernautai.app.
Nice. Juggernaut.ai.app. Nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Chad, thanks again, man. And maybe your next Austin trip, we'll loop you and the Uber driver in on the show.
He'd be a great guest. Great guy.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.